The twin girls were crying at Sarah's grave when Jonathan Stratton found them. Not the polite, muffled crying of mourners keeping respectful distance. Raw, gasping sobs that tore through the evening silence of Willowbrook Cemetery like something dying. The kind of grief that only comes from children who've lost everything. Jonathan's chest tightened. He'd come here alone, as he did every Thursday at sunset, to talk to the wife he'd buried 6 months ago. To tell her about the emptiness their penthouse had become. To apologize again for not being there when the aneurysm struck. But someone had gotten to her first. 2 identical girls, maybe 7 or 8 years old, knelt in the damp grass before Sarah's headstone, their small hands pressed against the polished granite. Matching dark curls hung limp around faces streaked with tears and dirt. Their clothes were expensive once, designer jackets now torn at the sleeves, patent leather shoes scuffed beyond recognition. They looked like they'd been running for days. "We're sorry, Mama," one whispered, her voice cracking. "We're so sorry we couldn't find you sooner." "Mama?" The word punched Jonathan in the stomach. He stood frozen behind an oak tree 15 feet away, his brain struggling to process what his ears had just heard. Sarah had no children. They'd spent 5 years trying, endless fertility treatments, 3 devastating miscarriages. The inability to conceive had haunted her until the day she died. These girls were calling his wife Mama. "Please wake up," the other twin begged, shaking the headstone like it might respond. "Daddy said you were sleeping. He said you'd come back. He promised." "Daddy?" Jonathan's blood turned to ice. The first girl turned then, and her eyes, crystal blue, just like Sarah's, exactly like looking into his dead wife's face, locked onto Jonathan through the gathering darkness. "You," she breathed, stumbling to her feet. "You're him. You're the man from the pictures." Her sister's head snapped up. Same eyes. Same facial structure. Same everything. It was like staring at duplicate ghosts of the woman he'd loved. "Please, mister," the second girl said, her voice desperate. "Are you Jonathan Stratton? Please say yes. We've been looking everywhere. Mama's instructions said to find you if anything happened to her. She said you'd keep us safe." "Instructions? Safe from what?" Jonathan stepped from behind the oak, his $2,000 shoes crunching on fallen leaves. Both girls flinched but held their ground, brave despite the terror written across their faces. "Who are you?" he managed, though his throat felt packed with sand. "I'm Emma," the first girl said. "This is Lily." Her voice broke. "We're yours. Mama said so. She said when the time came, we had to find you because you're the only one who can protect us now that she's gone." The world tilted sideways. "That's impossible," Jonathan whispered. "Sarah couldn't, we never." "Not Sarah," Emma interrupted, and tears spilled fresh down her cheeks. "Mama's name was Catherine. Catherine Corleone. But she had pictures of you everywhere. In her secret box. The one she told us to grab if the bad man ever came." Lily fumbled in her jacket and pulled out a photograph, creased and worn like it had been handled 1,000 times. She held it toward Jonathan with trembling fingers. He took it. Nearly dropped it. It was him and Sarah, from their honeymoon in Santorini 7 years ago. Arms around each other, laughing at the sunset. Except. He looked closer. The woman in the photo wasn't Sarah. The features were almost identical, but subtle differences emerged under scrutiny: slightly fuller lips, a small scar above the left eyebrow Sarah never had, a different smile. "Catherine was Mama's real name," Emma said quietly. "She told us about Sarah. She said Sarah was her twin sister. She said you didn't know. That nobody could know, because knowing would put everyone in danger." Twin sister. Sarah had a twin sister. Impossible. Sarah's parents died when she was 12. Only child. Raised by her grandmother in Boston. She'd told him everything about her past. Hadn't she? "The bad man came 3 days ago," Lily whispered, and her whole body started shaking. They burned our house. Mama got us out the back, but she made us run. Told us not to look back. We heard the gunshot and we ran and. She collapsed into Emma's arms, sobbing. Jonathan's mind reeled. 3 days. These children had been alone for 3 days. Running from someone who'd murdered their mother. A mother who was apparently Sarah's identical twin. A twin Sarah never mentioned. A twin who had photographs of Jonathan and instructions to find him. A twin whose daughters had his wife's eyes. Why my wife's grave? He asked, the executive part of his brain grasping for logic. If your mother was Catherine, why here? Emma wiped her nose with her sleeve. Mama told us about Sarah. She said they talked sometimes. Secret calls. That Sarah knew about us but made a promise never to tell. And if anything ever happened to Mama, we should come here because Sarah would have wanted you to know the truth. Sarah knew. His wife knew about these girls and never said a word. What truth? Jonathan demanded, anger flaring through his shock. What the hell is going on? Both girls stepped back from his tone, and immediately he hated himself for scaring them. But Emma straightened her spine, and in that gesture Jonathan saw something that made his heart stop. It was exactly how Sarah used to stand when she was about to reveal something important in a board meeting. Shoulders back, chin up, eyes clear despite the fear. The truth, Emma said, is that Mama and Sarah weren't just twins. They were part of something bigger. Something dangerous. And the people who killed Mama think Sarah told you everything before she died. She told me nothing, Jonathan said. We know, Lily whispered. That's why they're coming for you next. They think you're lying. They think you have what Mama hid. And they won't stop until they find it. A twig snapped in the darkness behind them. All three turned. 2 figures emerged from the tree line, silhouettes backlit by the parking lot lights beyond. Big. Moving with purpose. Run, Emma hissed, grabbing Jonathan's hand with surprising strength. They found us. Hey there, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive deeper into Jonathan's nightmare, because trust me, what happens next will absolutely blow your mind, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you team "this is crazy" or team "I saw this coming"? And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button because this story has twists you won't believe, and I've got so many more coming your way. Now, let's get back to Jonathan, Emma, and Lily, because those figures in the darkness? They're not here to help. Jonathan didn't think. His body moved on instinct honed from years of competitive rowing at Yale, from morning runs through Central Park, from the restless energy that had built his tech empire from a dorm room startup to a Fortune 500 company. He scooped both girls into his arms, lighter than they should be, God, when had they last eaten, and ran. Behind them, footsteps pounded against earth. Heavy. Fast. Closing distance. The West Gate, Jonathan gasped, his mind mapping the cemetery layout from months of solitary visits. Through the mausoleums. Emma twisted in his grip, looking back. There's 3 of them now. They have guns. Of course they had guns. Jonathan veered left, cutting between towering stone monuments to Willowbrook's wealthiest dead. His Mercedes was parked near the main entrance, but these men would expect that. They'd positioned themselves to cut off the obvious escape. Which meant whoever they were, they'd been watching. Waiting. How long have they been following you? He asked, lungs burning. Since Philadelphia, Lily whispered against his shoulder. We took buses. Trains. Tried to hide. But they always find us. Philadelphia. 300 miles. These children had traveled 300 miles alone, hunted, and somehow made it to Sarah's grave. Sarah, who'd kept secrets. Sarah, who'd known about a twin sister and never breathed a word in 5 years of marriage. The betrayal stung, but Jonathan shoved it down. Questions later. Survival now. He burst through a gap in the cemetery's western fence, the one the groundskeeper kept meaning to fix, and emerged onto Riverside Drive. Traffic hummed in both directions. Witnesses. Light. Safety in numbers. Jonathan set the girls down, grabbed both their hands, and walked. Not running anymore. Just a well-dressed man out for an evening stroll with 2 children. Nothing to see. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it. "We need to get off the street," Emma said, her voice remarkably steady for a child who'd just fled armed men. "They have people everywhere. Mama said they have money. Resources. That they've been looking for something for 20 years. 20 years. Before these girls were born. Before Jonathan met Sarah." "What are they looking for?" he asked. Both girls exchanged glances, some silent twin communication passing between them. "We don't know exactly," Emma admitted. "Mama never told us. Just that Sarah helped her hide it, and that it was worth killing for." A black SUV turned onto Riverside, moving too slow, windows tinted dark. Jonathan pulled the girls into a Korean restaurant, all bright lights and steam and the smell of grilling meat. The hostess smiled, started to ask about seating. "Bathroom?" Jonathan said. "Emergency." She pointed. Jonathan hustled the girls through the crowded dining room, past the bathrooms, straight into the kitchen. Startled cooks looked up from their stations. "Health inspector," Jonathan lied smoothly, the same tone he used in hostile boardroom negotiations. "Back exit?" A young line cook pointed to a steel door. Jonathan pushed through into an alley, and they were running again. 3 blocks. 4. Jonathan's carefully conditioned body handled the sprint, but the girls were flagging, stumbling. When was the last time they'd slept? He ducked into the lobby of a boutique hotel, the kind of place that catered to tourists who wanted authentic New York experience at premium prices. The desk clerk was young, distracted by her phone. "Reservation for Stratton," Jonathan said, knowing damn well he had none. The clerk typed, frowned. "I'm not seeing." Jonathan slid his black American Express across the counter. "My assistant must have called it into the wrong location. Can you accommodate us?" 2 rooms. Tonight only. Money talked. It always talked. 10 minutes later, they were in a 6th-floor suite, door locked, chain secured. Jonathan finally took a full breath and looked, really looked, at the 2 girls who'd just turned his life inside out. They sat side by side on the leather sofa, perfect mirrors of each other. Emma on the left, Lily on the right. Both watching him with Sarah's eyes. No. Catherine's eyes. A woman he'd never met. A woman his wife had hidden from him. "I need the whole story," Jonathan said, forcing his voice gentle despite the adrenaline still screaming through his veins. "Everything you know. Start from the beginning." Emma reached into her jacket and pulled out a small metal tin, dented and scratched. She opened it carefully, like it contained something precious. Inside were photographs, a flash drive, and a letter in a sealed envelope with Jonathan's name written in elegant script. "Mama said to give you this if we found you," Emma said. "She said you'd understand once you read it. That you'd know what to do." Jonathan took the envelope with shaking hands. The handwriting was almost identical to Sarah's, just slightly more angular. He broke the seal. "Dear Jonathan. If you're reading this, I'm dead, and my daughters have found you. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry for putting this on you, but you're the only person left I can trust. Sarah probably never told you about me. We made a pact when we were 12, after our parents were murdered. Yes, murdered, not the car accident story Sarah's grandmother told everyone. We were separated into different foster systems to keep us safe. We stayed hidden, built separate lives, and swore never to acknowledge each other's existence. But we broke that pact once. 7 years ago, when I needed help hiding something that powerful people would kill to possess. Sarah helped me. She was brave and brilliant and told me about you, about how happy you made her, about the life she'd built far from the darkness we grew up in. The girls don't know what they're carrying. That's intentional. The less they know, the safer they are. But you need to know. Our father wasn't just a banker. He worked for the Covenant, a network of families who've controlled global finance for generations. When he tried to leave, they killed him and our mother. They've been hunting the evidence he compiled ever since. Sarah helped me hide it in plain sight. Your company, Jonathan. It's been in your servers for 5 years, encrypted in a file you've probably seen 1,000 times and never questioned. Sarah buried it in your quarterly earnings reports, split across financial data that looks completely legitimate. The flash drive contains the decryption key. I know this is unfair. I know you didn't ask for any of this. But my girls, Emma and Lily, they're innocent. They're smart and brave and they've lost everything. Sarah told me once that you'd be an amazing father. That you wanted children more than anything. Please. Keep them safe. Use the evidence to destroy the Covenant, or bury it forever. I don't care anymore. I just want my daughters to survive. They're yours now. Protect them like I know Sarah would have wanted. Catherine. Jonathan read it twice. 3 times. His company. The evidence was in his company. Hidden in plain sight for 5 years while he'd worked alongside it, oblivious. And Sarah had known. Every board meeting, every quarterly report, every moment of their marriage, she'd carried this secret. He looked at the girls. Your mother says you're mine now. We know it's a lot, Emma said quietly, and the maturity in her voice broke something in Jonathan's chest. We can leave tomorrow. Find somewhere else. We just needed to warn you. Warn me about what? Lily's lip trembled. The Covenant knows about you now. Mama said they'd been watching her, and when they killed her, they found pictures of you. They think she told you where the evidence is. They think you've known all along. So they'll come for me either way, Jonathan said. Whether I help you or not. Both girls nodded. Jonathan thought about his life before tonight. The penthouse overlooking Central Park. The company that employed 3,000 people across 12 countries. The carefully ordered existence he'd built after Sarah's death, every day scheduled, every moment controlled, anything to avoid the crushing silence of grief. That life was over. Had been over the moment these girls spoke at Sarah's grave. I'm hungry, Lily whispered suddenly, and that simple admission, so childlike, so vulnerable, made Jonathan's decision. When did you last eat? He asked. Yesterday morning, Emma said. We spent our last money on bus tickets. Yesterday morning. Christ. Jonathan picked up the hotel phone and ordered room service. Everything on the menu that seemed remotely child-friendly. Burgers, pasta, grilled cheese, fries, 3 kinds of dessert. While they waited, he examined the flash drive. Standard USB, no external markings. Probably contained enough encrypted data to bring down some of the world's most powerful people. And somewhere in his company's servers, the evidence that matched this key had been sitting for 5 years. Sarah had put it there. Had asked him to run reports, review data, sign off on filings, all while hiding a weapon in plain sight. Tell me about your mother, Jonathan said. Not the secrets. Just, who was she? Emma's face softened. She was funny. She made pancakes every Sunday in the shape of animals. She taught us French and piano and how to pick locks. How to pick locks? Jonathan raised an eyebrow. She said every woman should know how to escape, Lily added. She taught us lots of stuff like that. How to tell if someone's following you. How to remember faces. How to disappear in a crowd. Catherine had raised them as she'd been raised. Survivors. Always looking over their shoulders. She loved us, Emma said fiercely. Everything she did was to protect us. She homeschooled us, moved us every 2 years, kept us away from other kids. We thought she was just paranoid. But she was keeping us alive. The room service arrived. Jonathan tipped the waiter extra for discretion and watched the girls devour food like they'd been starving. Which, essentially, they had been. Between bites, they told him about their life. The house in Philadelphia that burned. The cat named Gatsby who didn't make it out. The garden where Catherine taught them to grow vegetables. The library where they spent hours reading. Normal things. Kid things. All threaded with the abnormal reality of a mother preparing her daughters for the day she'd be murdered. Mama talked about Sarah sometimes, Lily said, dragging a French fry through ketchup. She said Sarah got the normal life. The husband and the big city and the happiness. She said Sarah deserved it after everything they went through. Did she sound angry? Jonathan asked. Jealous? Emma shook her head. Proud. She was proud of Sarah. Said her sister was the brave one for choosing to really live instead of just survive. But Sarah hadn't really lived either, had she? She'd carried this weight, this knowledge, these secrets. She'd looked into Jonathan's eyes every day and held back an entire hidden world. Had she loved him? Or had the whole marriage been part of some elaborate protection scheme? The question hurt too much to examine. You should sleep, Jonathan said. We'll figure out next steps in the morning. We can't stay here long, Emma said. They'll find us. They always find us. Then we'll be gone before they do. Both girls looked at him, and Jonathan saw the question in their eyes. The one they were too afraid to ask. I'm not sending you away, he said firmly. Catherine's letter said you're mine now. So you're mine. We're going to figure this out together. Lily started crying. Not the desperate sobs from the cemetery, but quiet tears of relief. Emma just nodded, her jaw set in that way that reminded Jonathan of Sarah facing down hostile board members. Together, she repeated. Okay. They fell asleep within minutes, exhausted bodies finally allowed to rest. Jonathan covered them with blankets from the closet and sat in the chair by the window, watching the street below. A black SUV circled the block. Once. Twice. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. 17 missed calls. All from Maxwell Chen, his head of security at Stratton Technologies. Jonathan called back. Boss, where the hell are you? Maxwell demanded. Your tracker's been pinging all over the city. Are you okay? His tracker. The app all executives used for safety. Which meant. Turn it off, Jonathan said quietly. Right now, Max kill my location services completely. What? Why? Because someone's hunting me, and I need to disappear. Can you do that remotely? A pause. Then, give me 60 seconds. Maxwell Chen had been with Jonathan for 8 years. Former Secret Service, loyal to a fault, and smart enough not to ask questions when it mattered. Done, Maxwell said. Jonathan, what's going on? I need you to do something else. Access our server archives. Look for any files associated with Sarah's credentials from 5 to 7 years ago. Anything she uploaded, modified, or flagged. But do it quietly. Don't trigger any alerts. You think Sarah planted something in our system? I know she did. I need to find it before someone else does. Another pause. Are you in danger? Jonathan looked at the sleeping girls on the sofa. At the flash drive sitting on the table. At the world he'd thought he understood crumbling into something far darker and more complex. Yes, he said. We all are. If you're loving this story so far, drop a comment and let me know what you think is on that flash drive. Is it financial records? Something even bigger? And don't forget to subscribe, because what happens next is going to change everything you think you know about Jonathan's perfect life. Jonathan didn't sleep. He spent the night cataloging everything he knew about his own company, looking for the holes Sarah might have used. Stratton Technologies had grown from a simple financial software startup to a global data analytics platform. They handled quarterly reports for thousands of companies, processing billions of data points. If you wanted to hide a needle, you built a haystack. And Sarah had helped him build the biggest haystack in the industry. At 4:47 a.m., his phone buzzed. Maxwell. Found something, his security chief said without preamble. Sarah accessed the master template for quarterly earning reports 6 years ago. Modified the underlying code structure. I wouldn't have noticed except she left a comment in the metadata, just 3 words. What words? For the girls. Jonathan's breath caught. 6 years ago. A year before Emma and Lily were born, if his math was right. Sarah had been planning this before Catherine even had children. Can you tell what she changed? Jonathan asked. That's the weird part. The modifications don't affect functionality. They create redundant data fields that mirror legitimate financial information. Like echo chambers in the code. They serve no purpose I can identify. Unless you needed to hide encrypted data in plain sight. Don't touch it, Jonathan said. Don't modify anything. Just send me the file architecture documentation. Boss, if there's something compromised in our system. It's not a threat to the company. It's evidence. Evidence that people have killed for. Maxwell swore softly. Sarah was involved in something. Sarah was protecting someone. Her twin sister. Sarah had a twin? Apparently I didn't know my wife as well as I thought. The documentation arrived in Jonathan's email 60 seconds later. He opened it on his laptop, studying the file structure Sarah had created. She'd been brilliant, the modifications were subtle enough that no auditor would question them, but complex enough to hold significant encrypted data. But without the decryption key, it was just numbers. Jonathan picked up the flash drive Catherine had sent. Such a small thing to be worth multiple murders. He was about to plug it in when Emma's voice cut through the darkness. Mama said not to open it unless you were somewhere safe. Somewhere they couldn't trace. She sat up on the sofa, looking small in the oversized t-shirt Jonathan had bought from the hotel gift shop. Lily still slept beside her, curled into a ball. Everywhere can be traced, Jonathan said. Not everywhere. Emma stood and walked to his chair, moving with the strange confidence of a child who'd been forced to grow up too fast. Mama had a place. In the letter there's a second page. Did you see it? Jonathan pulled out Catherine's letter again. Sure enough, underneath the first page was another, so thin he'd missed it in his initial reading. The cabin in Frost Hollow. Sarah knew about it. She went there once, 3 years ago, said it was the most peaceful place she'd ever been. Off-grid. Untraceable. The deed is under the name Elizabeth Bennet, Sarah's little joke. She said you'd understand. Elizabeth Bennet. Pride and Prejudice. Sarah's favorite book, the one she'd read dozens of times, the one she quoted when she wanted to make a point about first impressions being wrong. You know where it is? Emma asked. I can find out. Jonathan checked his watch. 5:03 a.m. We need to move anyway. They'll have canvassed the hotels by now. He woke Lily gently. Both girls moved with practiced silence, gathering their meager possessions. Jonathan realized with a pang that everything they owned fit in one small backpack. They left through the hotel's service entrance, the one Maxwell had mapped for Jonathan during a security assessment years ago. Old habits from his head of security's Secret Service days, always know the exits. Jonathan's Mercedes was still at the cemetery, probably under surveillance. Instead, he walked 6 blocks to a parking garage he owned through a shell corporation, one of several investments Sarah had suggested years ago. Had that been part of her planning too? Creating escape routes he didn't know he had? The garage held a rotation of vehicles for executive use. Jonathan chose an anonymous gray Toyota, something that wouldn't draw attention. Where's Frost Hollow? Emma asked as they pulled into pre-dawn traffic. Upstate. Near the Canadian border. About 6 hours. They'll have people watching the highways. Jonathan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. You sound very certain. Mama drilled it into us. The Covenant has people everywhere. Police, government, private security. She said they've had 200 years to build their network. 200 years. The letter mentioned the Covenant controlled global finance. Old money. Old power. The kind that didn't show up in Forbes lists because it didn't need to. Jonathan had built his fortune in 15 years. These people had been accumulating power since before the American Revolution. And he'd just made himself their enemy by taking in Catherine's daughters. They drove in silence for the first hour, Jonathan taking side roads and checking mirrors obsessively. No black SUVs. No obvious tails. But Emma was right, if the Covenant was as embedded as Catherine claimed, they didn't need to follow. They just needed to wait at the logical destination points. Tell me about Sarah, Lily said suddenly from the back seat. Mama told us stories, but we want to hear from you. Jonathan's throat tightened. What did your mother say? That Sarah was beautiful and smart and kind. That she married a good man who made her laugh. That she got to be happy. Got to be happy. Past tense. As if happiness was something you earned through survival. She was all those things, Jonathan said. She was also stubborn. Competitive. She beat me at chess every single time and never let me forget it. She volunteered at a literacy center in Harlem every Tuesday. She couldn't cook to save her life but insisted on trying. His voice broke. She sounds wonderful, Emma said softly. She was. She is. I mean, Jonathan gripped the steering wheel. I'm still figuring out how to talk about her in past tense. Mama said grief is just love with nowhere to go. Jonathan had to pull over. He couldn't see through the tears anymore. They sat on the shoulder of Route 87 while he cried for the first time since Sarah's funeral. Real crying, not the controlled grief he'd allowed himself in the empty penthouse. The girls didn't say anything, just sat quietly, and somehow their presence made it okay to fall apart. When he finally collected himself, the sun was rising over the Catskills. I'm sorry, Jonathan said, wiping his face. Don't be, Lily said. Mama cried too. For Sarah. She said losing your twin is like losing half your soul. They drove on. Around 9 a.m., Jonathan's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. But something made him pick up. Mr. Stratton. The voice was male, cultured, with a faint European accent. My name is Victor Hastings. I represent certain interests that have been looking for something your late wife and her sister took from us. Jonathan's blood turned to ice. He glanced at the girls in the mirror. Both had gone rigid. I don't know what you're talking about, Jonathan said. Please. Let's not waste time with denials. You have Catherine's daughters. Which means you have her letter. Which means you know about the flash drive. How? How could they possibly? The hotel. They'd found the hotel. Probably bribed the desk clerk, checked security footage. What do you want? Jonathan asked. The evidence Catherine and Sarah stole. Return it, and we'll leave you alone. Keep it, and you'll learn exactly how far our reach extends. Victor's voice remained pleasant, conversational. You're a businessman, Mr. Stratton. You understand cost-benefit analysis. Is protecting 2 orphans worth destroying everything you've built? Emma grabbed his shoulder from the back seat, shaking her head frantically. And if I return it? Jonathan asked. What happens to the girls? That's not your concern. Actually, it is. Catherine's letter made them my concern. A pause. Then Victor laughed, genuinely amused. You've known these children for less than 12 hours. You owe them nothing. Catherine was delusional if she thought you'd sacrifice your empire for her mistakes. Maybe I'm delusional too. Mr. Stratton. Here's my counteroffer, Jonathan interrupted, his voice turning into the same steel he used in hostile negotiations. "Leave us alone, and I won't release whatever's on this drive to every media outlet on the planet." Another pause. Longer this time. "You don't know what you're protecting," Victor said, and now the pleasant tone was gone. "That evidence doesn't just implicate the covenant. It implicates governments, corporations, institutions that keep global order functioning. Release it, and you'll cause economic chaos. Millions will suffer. Then I guess you better leave us alone. We can make your death look like an accident. Just like we did with Sarah." The world stopped. "What did you say?" Jonathan whispered. The aneurysm was remarkably easy to induce. Untraceable. Sarah never saw it coming. Victor sounded almost proud. "She refused to tell us where Catherine hid the evidence. Chose loyalty to her sister over her own life. Admirable, really. Stupid, but admirable. They killed Sarah. Sarah didn't die from random chance. She was murdered." "I'm going to destroy you," Jonathan said, his voice shaking with rage. "Every single one of you. You're going to try. But let me tell you what happens next, Mr. Stratton. We know you're heading north. We know you're looking for Catherine's cabin. And we know that by tonight, you'll be desperate enough to make a mistake. We're patient. We've been patient for 20 years. We can wait a few more hours." The line went dead. Jonathan pulled over again, this time because his hands were shaking too hard to drive. "They killed her," he said to no one in particular. "They killed Sarah because she wouldn't betray Catherine." "We know," Emma said quietly. "Mama told us. That's why she said you deserved the truth. Sarah died protecting us." The woman he loved had been murdered to protect 2 children he'd never met. Children who now sat in his back seat, orphaned and hunted, carrying evidence that could topple governments. And Victor Hastings thought Jonathan would just hand them over to save his company. "Mr. Stratton?" Lily's voice was very small. "Are you going to give us back?" Jonathan looked at her in the mirror. At both of them. They were trying to be brave, but he could see the terror underneath. 2 7-year-old girls who'd lost everything. Who'd watched their mother die. Who'd traveled 300 miles alone to find a man they'd never met because a letter told them to. His wife had died protecting them. Catherine had trusted him with them. And the people who'd killed both sisters thought he'd cave to threats. "No," Jonathan said firmly. "I'm not giving you back. We're going to that cabin. We're going to decrypt that drive. And then we're going to finish what your mother and Sarah started." "Even if it costs you everything?" Emma asked. Jonathan thought about his company. His penthouse. His carefully ordered life. All of it built on the foundation of a marriage to a woman who'd kept earth-shattering secrets. But she'd kept those secrets to protect her sister. To protect these girls. She'd died rather than betray them. If Sarah thought they were worth dying for, they were worth fighting for. "Some things are worth more than money," Jonathan said, and meant it. He pulled back onto the highway, but this time he wasn't just running. He was hunting. Because Victor Hastings had made a critical mistake. He'd told Jonathan they were watching the route north. Which meant they expected him to continue to the cabin. Jonathan took the next exit and turned south instead. "Where are we going?" Emma asked. "Somewhere they won't expect. Somewhere I have resources and people I trust." He pulled out his phone and called Maxwell. "I need you to arrange something. And I need you to not ask questions." "I'm very good at not asking questions," Maxwell said drily. "How fast can you get to the Stratton Technologies research facility in Princeton?" 90 minutes. "Meet me there." "And Max?" "Come armed." He hung up and glanced at the girls. "Your mother hid evidence in my company's servers. Which means the safest place to decrypt that drive is exactly where they'd least expect me to go, right into the heart of what they think I'm trying to protect." Emma smiled. It was the first time Jonathan had seen her smile, and it transformed her face from haunted to hopeful. "That's smart," she said. "Mama would have liked that." "Sarah would have too," Jonathan agreed. "She always said the best defense is a completely insane offense." They drove toward Princeton while the sun climbed higher and Jonathan's phone filled with increasingly urgent messages from board members, investors, and executives wondering where their CEO had disappeared to. Let them wonder. For the first time since Sarah's death, Jonathan Stratton had something worth fighting for. Two girls who shared his wife's eyes. A truth that had cost two women their lives. And a chance to make the people who'd murdered Sarah pay for every moment of grief they'd caused. The Covenant thought they were dealing with a businessman. They were about to learn they'd made an enemy. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Jonathan can really take on an organization that's been operating for 200 years? What do you think is in that encrypted data? The next part is where everything explodes, so make sure you're subscribed because you do not want to miss what happens when Jonathan finally decrypts that drive. The Stratton Technologies research facility in Princeton looked like a college campus crossed with a tech startup, modern glass buildings surrounded by carefully landscaped grounds, outdoor ping-pong tables, and a volleyball court where engineers played during lunch breaks. But beneath the casual facade was some of the most sophisticated security infrastructure on the East Coast. Biometric scanners, air-gapped servers isolated from external networks, and a Faraday cage room designed for testing classified government projects. If anywhere was safe to decrypt Catherine's drive, it was here. Maxwell Chen met them in the underground parking garage, his jacket bulging slightly where Jonathan knew he kept his Glock. The security chief took one look at the twins and raised an eyebrow. "Family emergency?" he asked mildly. "Something like that," Jonathan said. "Max, meet Emma and Lily. Girls, this is Maxwell. He's going to help keep you safe." Maxwell crouched to eye level with the twins, his expression softening in a way Jonathan had never seen. "You two look like you've had a rough couple of days." "People are trying to kill us," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Well, that's not going to happen on my watch." Maxwell stood, all business again. "Boss, I've got the Faraday room prepped. No external signals in or out. I also pulled our entire security team onto 12-hour shifts and locked down facility access. As far as anyone knows, we're running a classified defense contract simulation." "Perfect." Jonathan ushered the girls toward the elevator. "How much did you find in Sarah's files?" "Enough to keep me up all night." Maxwell's jaw tightened. "Your wife built an incredibly sophisticated data structure. The encrypted files are distributed across thousands of legitimate financial reports. Someone would have to know exactly what they were looking for to even notice the pattern." The elevator descended 2 floors below ground level, into the secure research wing. Emma and Lily pressed close to Jonathan, overwhelmed by the stark concrete corridors and heavy security doors. "It's like a bunker," Emma whispered. "That's exactly what it is," Maxwell said. "During the Cold War, this whole level was designed as a fallout shelter. Now it's where we do our most sensitive work." He led them into a windowless room lined with copper mesh, the Faraday cage. Inside were 3 computers, completely isolated from any network. A whiteboard covered one wall, and a small sofa sat in the corner. "Everything you need," Maxwell said. "I'll be right outside. No one gets past me." Jonathan nodded his thanks and closed the door. The girls immediately gravitated to the sofa, exhaustion written in every line of their small bodies. Jonathan wanted to let them sleep, but they had limited time. Victor Hastings wouldn't wait forever. "Okay," he said, pulling out the flash drive. "Let's see what your mother died protecting." He plugged it into the primary computer. Emma came to stand beside him, Lily hovering behind. The drive contained a single encrypted file. No readme, no instructions, just a block of scrambled data that meant nothing without the proper key. "Mama said the password was something only you would know," Emma said. "Something about Sarah." Jonathan's mind raced. "Their anniversary?" "No, Catherine wouldn't have known that." Sarah's birthday? Too obvious. She said it was in the letter, Lily added. Hidden in plain sight. Jonathan pulled out Catherine's letter again, reading more carefully. Elizabeth Bennet, Sarah's little joke. Elizabeth Bennet. Pride and Prejudice. But why was it a joke? Then it clicked. Sarah had always said she identified with Elizabeth Bennet, quick to judge, slower to understand, but ultimately willing to see past her first impressions. When Jonathan proposed, she'd laughed and said yes, but only because he was luckier than Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy. The character who overcame Elizabeth's prejudice. The man who proved first impressions wrong. Jonathan typed, Mr. Darcy. Access denied. He tried variations. Darcy, Fitzwilliam Darcy, Pemberley. Nothing worked. What was the joke? Emma asked. Why did Mama say it was funny? Jonathan stared at the letter. Elizabeth Bennet, Sarah's little joke. And then he understood. Sarah had used Elizabeth Bennet as a pseudonym for the cabin deed. But Elizabeth Bennet married Mr. Darcy and became Elizabeth Darcy. The joke was that Sarah never took Jonathan's last name, she'd kept her maiden name, Hastings, after the wedding. It had been important to her, a nod to independence. But in Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth did take Darcy's name. The password wasn't about Darcy. It was about names. Identity. Sarah's maiden name, Hastings. He typed it in. Access denied. Damn it, Jonathan muttered. Try Mama's name, Lily suggested. She said they were two halves of the same person. Catherine Hastings. Access denied. But wait, Catherine used the name Corleone in the letter. Catherine Corleone. Jonathan tried it. The file began to decrypt. Progress bar, 1%. 5%. 15%. That's it, Emma breathed. The decryption took 8 minutes. Jonathan spent them pacing while the girls watched the screen with the intensity of kids watching a crucial video game level. At 100%, the file opened. What appeared made Jonathan's breath catch. It wasn't just financial records. It was a complete genealogical and financial map of the Covenant, 200 years of carefully documented bloodlines, marriages, business dealings, and criminal activities. Murders made to look like accidents. Elections bought and sold. Wars started for profit. Economic crashes deliberately engineered. And names. Dozens of names. Senators. CEOs. Judges. Police commissioners. Media executives. People Jonathan had met at charity galas. People he'd done business with. People who smiled and shook hands while secretly belonging to an organization that had killed for profit since before the United States existed. My God, Jonathan whispered. This is everything. Mama said it was grandfather's life's work, Emma said quietly. He spent 20 years gathering evidence. That's why they killed him. Jonathan scrolled through the files. Bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. Shell corporations. Bribes documented down to the dollar. And at the center of it all, a core group of 12 families who'd controlled the Covenant since its inception. The Hastings family was one of them. Which meant Sarah and Catherine were born into this. Their father had been part of the Covenant before he'd tried to expose it. Your grandfather was a brave man, Jonathan said. He was a murderer first, Emma corrected, her voice hard. Mama never let us forget that. She said he did terrible things before he found his conscience. That the evidence didn't absolve him, it just proved he finally understood what he'd become. Fair enough. Jonathan kept reading. The documentation was meticulous, dates, amounts, photographs, recorded conversations. Everything needed to bring down some of the most powerful people in the world. And buried in the middle was a separate folder labeled, Sarah. Jonathan's hand trembled as he clicked it. Inside were emails. Dozens of them. Correspondence between Sarah and Catherine spanning 5 years. He opened the first one, dated 7 years ago, 2 months before he met Sarah at that tech conference in Boston. Cat. I met someone. His name is Jonathan. He's brilliant and kind and has no idea how extraordinary he is. I think I might be in love, which is terrifying because you know what we promised. No connections. No vulnerabilities. But God, I'm tired of being alone. Aren't you? Tell me I'm not making a mistake. S. Catherine's response came 2 days later. Sarah. You deserve this. You deserve all the happiness I can't have. Be in love. Build a life. Forget about the darkness we came from. Just promise me one thing, if anything happens to me, if they find me, you'll help me protect my girls. I'm pregnant, twins. Due in 6 months. I'm going to be a mother. And I'm terrified they'll grow up the way we did. Be happy for both of us. See. Jonathan's vision blurred. He scrolled through the emails, watching his marriage unfold from Sarah's perspective. Her joy when he proposed. Her grief over their miscarriages. Her quiet devastation at never being able to have children, made worse because she knew Catherine had twins she could never acknowledge. And then, 4 years ago, an email that changed everything. Cat. They know about you. I don't know how, but Victor called me today. Asked about my family. My sister. I played dumb, but he knows. You need to disappear. Take the girls and run. I'll hide the evidence like we planned. Jonathan's company is perfect, no one would ever think to look there. But you have to promise me something. If they kill me, if this goes wrong, make sure Jonathan knows the truth. He deserves to know why. And he'll protect Emma and Lily. I know he will. He's a good man, Cat. The best I've ever known. I love you. Stay safe. S. 3 months later, another email. S. I'm in hiding. Moving every few weeks. The girls think it's an adventure, but they're getting older. They ask questions. I saw the news about your aneurysm. I know it wasn't natural. I know what they did. I'm going to make them pay. For you. For our parents. For every life they've destroyed. I love you, sister. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. See. That was the last email. Sent 2 weeks after Sarah's funeral. Jonathan sat back, tears streaming down his face. Sarah had known she was going to die. Had known the covenant was closing in. And she'd spent her final months hiding evidence and trying to protect a sister and 2 nieces she could never publicly acknowledge. Every moment of their marriage, she'd carried this weight. She loved you, Emma said softly. Mama always said Sarah's emails were full of stories about you. How you made her laugh. How safe she felt. How you were the first good thing that ever happened to her. I should have known, Jonathan said. I should have seen. She didn't want you to see, Lily interrupted. She wanted you to just be happy together. Mama said that was Sarah's gift to you, letting you believe in a normal life for as long as possible. A knock on the Faraday room door. Maxwell's voice, Boss, we have a problem. Jonathan wiped his face and opened the door. Maxwell's expression was grim. Building security just flagged multiple vehicles entering the campus. Black SUVs. They blew past the main gate and they're heading this way. How many? At least 6. Maybe more. Maxwell pulled his weapon. They're not even trying to be subtle. Because they didn't need to be. The Covenant had infiltrated everything. They probably had people inside facility security right now, feeding them information. Lockdown protocols, Jonathan ordered. Seal every entrance to this level. Already done. But boss, they'll have access codes. If they've compromised our security, then we buy time. Jonathan turned to the girls. There's an emergency exit tunnel. Leads to a building 3 blocks away. Max is going to take you. No. Emma's voice was steel. We stay together. That's what Mama would want. Your mother would want you alive, Jonathan said. And you think splitting up keeps us alive? Emma shot back. Every time Mama tried to hide us separately, they found us faster. We stay together. She sounded exactly like Sarah in an argument. Immovable. She's right, Maxwell said reluctantly. Divided targets are easier to track. We move as a unit or not at all. Jonathan looked at the computer screen, at the evidence that had cost 4 lives already. We can't leave this behind. Already handled. Maxwell pulled out a portable hard drive. I cloned the entire server architecture an hour ago. Everything's backed up. We can wipe the local systems in. An explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered. Emergency sirens began wailing. They breached the main entrance, Maxwell said, checking his phone. We have maybe 3 minutes before they reach this level. Jonathan made a decision. Upload the evidence. Everything. Every file. Send it to every major news outlet, every government watchdog, every international court. That'll take at least 10 minutes, Maxwell protested. Then we hold for 10 minutes. Jonathan grabbed the flash drive and pocketed it. If we don't make it out, at least the truth gets out. Maxwell nodded and started typing furiously on his phone, initiating the mass upload protocol. Another explosion. Closer this time. They're blowing the security doors, Maxwell reported. Professional demo work. These aren't thugs, boss. This is a military-style assault. Emma grabbed Jonathan's hand. Lily grabbed his other hand. Both girls were trembling but silent. The tunnel, Jonathan said. Now. Maxwell led them out of the Faraday room and down the corridor. Behind them, Jonathan could hear shouting, the thunder of boots on concrete. They reached the emergency exit, a nondescript door marked maintenance. Maxwell punched in a code and pulled it open, revealing a narrow tunnel sloping downward into darkness. Go, he ordered. They ran. The tunnel was barely wide enough for Jonathan's shoulders, lit by occasional emergency lights. Emma and Lily moved ahead, surprisingly fast for children who'd been running for days. Behind them, the door exploded inward. Contact! Maxwell shouted, turning and firing. The gunshots were deafening in the enclosed space. Jonathan pushed the girls forward. Don't stop. Don't look back. They ran harder, feet pounding on concrete. The tunnel seemed endless, stretching into forever. More gunshots. Maxwell was buying them time. Finally, they reached another door. Jonathan slammed into it shoulder first, and they burst out into a basement storage room in a building he recognized, one of Princeton's older engineering labs. This way, he gasped, pulling the girls up a stairwell. They emerged on the ground floor to chaos. Students and faculty running, confused by the explosions from the Stratton facility 3 blocks away. Perfect cover. Jonathan blended into the crowd, the girls clutching his hands. His phone buzzed. Maxwell. Uploads at 60%, his security chief panted. But I'm pinned down. They're everywhere. Get out of there, Jonathan ordered. Not until this finishes. This is what Sarah died for, right? Making sure the truth gets out? Max? Take care of those girls, boss. And make these bastards pay. The line went dead. Jonathan wanted to go back. Wanted to help. But Emma and Lily were his responsibility now. Sarah had died for them. Catherine had died for them. Maxwell was holding the line for them. He kept moving. They made it to the edge of campus before Jonathan heard the sirens. Police. Fire trucks. Probably Covenant-controlled responders who'd secure the scene and disappear any evidence of what had really happened. He ducked into a coffee shop, bought 3 drinks to look normal, and found a corner booth. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Victor Hastings. Impressive, Mr. Stratton, the cultured voice said. But ultimately futile. We've contained your facility. Your security chief is dead. And the upload he attempted? We blocked it at 73%. Nothing got out. Jonathan's heart sank. Maxwell. God, Maxwell. You're lying, he said. Am I? Check your news feeds. You'll find a story about a gas leak at a tech facility. Tragic accident. No survivors. Jonathan pulled up CNN on his phone. The headline read, "Explosion at Princeton Tech Facility, Multiple Casualties." But underneath, a smaller headline caught his eye, "Massive Data Leak Exposes Global Financial Conspiracy." Victor hadn't blocked the upload. Maxwell had gotten it out. I'm looking at the news right now, Jonathan said slowly. And it seems like your 200-year secret just went viral. A pause. Then Victor's voice turned ice cold. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done. I've finished what Sarah and Catherine started. You've destroyed the order that keeps civilization functioning. The chaos that's about to unfold, the economic collapse, the political instability, that blood is on your hands. No, Jonathan said. That blood is on yours. You killed Sarah. You killed Catherine. You killed my friend Maxwell. You've been killing people for 2 centuries. The chaos is justice catching up. We will find you, Victor promised. And those girls will die the same way their mother did. You're welcome to try. But here's the thing about going viral in the digital age, everyone's watching now. You kill us, and it proves every word in those files is true. You leave us alone, and maybe, just maybe, you survive what's coming. Jonathan hung up. Emma was watching him with wide eyes. Did we win? I don't know yet, Jonathan admitted. But we got the truth out. That's what your mother and Sarah wanted. Lily leaned against his shoulder, exhausted. What happens now? Good question. Jonathan's phone exploded with notifications. News outlets. Government agencies. Law enforcement. Everyone wanting to talk to Jonathan Stratton, CEO of the company whose servers had just dumped evidence of the largest criminal conspiracy in modern history. His old life was over. The company would be consumed by investigations. His reputation would be shredded in the media circus. Everything he'd built would collapse under the weight of association with the Covenant files. But 2 girls were alive. The truth was out. And Sarah's death meant something now. Now, Jonathan said, we figure out what happens next. Together. Together, Emma echoed. Outside, sirens wailed. The world was changing, whether it was ready or not. And somewhere in the chaos, Jonathan Stratton, billionaire CEO turned accidental revolutionary, held 2 orphaned girls and realized that everything he'd thought mattered actually didn't. Family mattered. Truth mattered. Justice mattered. The rest was just noise. The tension is at an all-time high. Drop a comment, do you think they're really safe now, or is Victor planning something even worse? And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button because the next parts are going to blow your mind. This story is far from over. 3 days after the world learned about the Covenant, Jonathan rented a house in a small town in Vermont using cash and a fake name Maxwell had set up months ago, one of several emergency identities his security chief had prepared just in case. Maxwell Chen had thought of everything, even his own death. The funeral was scheduled for next week. Jonathan wouldn't be able to attend. Being seen in public right now would be suicide. The house was small, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that smelled like old wood, and a living room with windows overlooking a lake. Nothing like the penthouse. Nothing like the life Jonathan had known. But the girls loved it. Emma and Lily had never lived anywhere that felt permanent. They explored every room like it was a treasure hunt, claimed the bedroom with the window seat, and spent hours skipping stones on the lake while Jonathan watched from the porch, They were starting to smile. Starting to be kids again. The world, meanwhile, was burning. Jonathan watched the news obsessively. The Covenant files had triggered a global earthquake. Senators were resigning. CEOs were being arrested. International banks were collapsing as depositors fled institutions named in the evidence. Markets had dropped 4,000 points in 3 days. Victor had been right about one thing: releasing the truth had consequences. People were losing their savings. Retirement accounts were evaporating. The economic order that had existed for generations was crumbling. And Jonathan's name was everywhere. Not as a hero. As a conspirator. The narrative the Covenant's remaining allies were pushing was simple: Jonathan Stratton had manufactured the evidence to destroy his business rivals. His wife Sarah had been part of the scheme. The whole thing was an elaborate fraud. It didn't matter that independent analysts were verifying the files. It didn't matter that journalists were corroborating the claims. Enough doubt had been seeded that half the country wasn't sure what to believe. "You're reading the comments again," Emma said, appearing beside his chair. Jonathan closed his laptop. "I'm just checking." "You're torturing yourself." She climbed onto the arm of the chair, too perceptive for 7 years old. "Mama used to do the same thing. Check the news, read what people said about her, convince herself everyone thought she was crazy." Was she crazy? No. She was scared. There's a difference. Emma looked out at the lake where Lily was collecting smooth stones. Being scared makes sense when people are actually trying to kill you. Fair point. "Do you think we're safe here?" Jonathan asked. Emma was quiet for a moment. "Mama said nowhere is really safe. But some places buy you time. And time is how you figure out what to do next." "You sound like your mother." "I sound like both of them. Mama said she and Sarah used to finish each other's sentences. That's how close they were." Emma's voice got soft. "Do you think they're together now? Wherever people go when they die?" Jonathan thought about his wife, who'd carried impossible secrets to protect a sister she could never acknowledge. About Catherine, who'd raised her daughters to survive while hoping they'd never have to use those skills. "Yes," he said. "I think they're together. And I think they're proud of you." Emma leaned against his shoulder. "Lily and I talk about them at night. About what we remember. We're scared we'll forget their voices." The simple tragedy of that statement broke Jonathan's heart. "I have videos," he said suddenly. "Of Sarah. On my phone, my laptop. Hours of videos. Birthday parties, vacations, just random moments. She sounds exactly like Catherine, doesn't she?" Emma's eyes widened. "Can we watch them?" "Of course." They spent the next hour going through Jonathan's phone. Videos of Sarah laughing, Sarah arguing playfully about restaurant choices, Sarah doing a terrible karaoke performance at a company party. And Emma was right, the voice was identical to what Jonathan had heard in Catherine's recorded birthday messages to the girls, saved on their small tablet. The twins sat transfixed, watching a woman who was both stranger and mother. Lily cried quietly. Emma held her hand. "She's beautiful," Lily whispered. "Just like Mama." They were identical, Jonathan explained. Same DNA, same features. But different people. Different lives. "Not so different," Emma said. "They both loved the same man." Jonathan blinked. "What?" Emma looked at him with those two wise eyes. "Mama loved you. She never said it exactly, but we could tell. The way she talked about you. The way she read Sarah's emails over and over. She loved you because Sarah loved you, and they were two halves of the same person. It was too much. Too complicated." Jonathan's brain couldn't process. His laptop dinged. Email notification. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the sender, s.hastings1987@protonmail.com. Sarah's old encrypted email account. The one she'd used for correspondence with Catherine. But Sarah was dead. Jonathan's hand shook as he opened the message. Mr. Stratton. By now you've realized the evidence you released was comprehensive but not complete. There's one more file. The most important one. Sarah hid it separately, somewhere only you could find it. The Covenant wants it back. I'm authorized to offer you a deal, the file in exchange for immunity. Keep it, and we'll spend the rest of your life making you wish you'd cooperated. You have 48 hours to decide. You'll find instructions in the place where Sarah said yes. A friend. The place where Sarah said yes. Jonathan's proposal. He proposed at the Morgan Library in Manhattan, in the room housing the original manuscript of A Christmas Carol. Sarah had been obsessed with Dickens, and Jonathan had arranged a private viewing. She'd cried when she said yes. Best moment of his life. What's wrong? Emma asked, seeing his expression. There's more evidence. Something Sarah hid separately. Jonathan stood, pacing. They're offering a deal. Immunity in exchange for the file. It's a trap, Emma said immediately. They'll kill you the second you show up. Maybe. But what if there really is another file? What if Sarah hid something crucial? Then she hid it for a reason, Lily said quietly. She didn't want them to have it. Jonathan looked at the email again. The phrasing bothered him. Sarah hid it separately, somewhere only you could find it. Only he could find it. Which meant it wasn't at the Morgan Library. That was too obvious. The Covenant would have searched there already. So where? He pulled up the videos of Sarah again, scrolling through looking for clues. Her voice filled the room, talking about work, about dinner plans, about... Wait, Jonathan said, stopping on a video from 3 years ago. Sarah's birthday. They'd celebrated at home because she was tired. In the video, Sarah was opening presents. She held up a first edition copy of Great Expectations that Jonathan had hunted down from a rare book dealer. It's perfect, video Sarah said. I'm going to put it in our safe place. With all the other treasures. Our safe place. Jonathan had assumed she meant their home safe. But they'd never called it that. They called it the safe. Very different from a safe place. Do you have a safe place? He asked Emma suddenly. Somewhere you kept treasures when you lived with Catherine? Emma nodded slowly. We had a box. Buried in the backyard under the oak tree. Mama said every family should have a place only they know about. Only they know about. Sarah had grown up with that same philosophy. Which meant she and Jonathan must have had one too. A place only they knew about. A safe place. But where? Jonathan closed his eyes, thinking through their relationship. Places that were significant. Private. Theirs alone. The penthouse? No. Too obvious. His office? Searched already. The cemetery? Maybe, but... And then it hit him. The summer house. They'd rented a cottage in Cape Cod for 2 weeks, 3 years ago. It was the last vacation they'd taken together before the fertility treatments consumed Sarah's energy and hope. They'd spent those 2 weeks disconnecting from the world, just walking beaches and reading and being together. Sarah had loved that cottage. Said it was the first place she'd felt truly peaceful. She'd called it their safe place. I need to make a call, Jonathan said. He dialed a number he hadn't used in years. After 6 rings, a woman's voice answered. Cape Cod Cottage Rentals. Hi, I'm trying to find information about a property I rented 3 years ago. Small cottage, right on the beach, about 20 minutes north of Provincetown? That would be the Whitmore Cottage. Are you interested in booking again? Actually, I'm trying to reach the owner. I think I might have left something there. A pause. The owner passed away last year, but the property's still in the family. Let me transfer you to. Wait, Jonathan interrupted. Who owns it now? The daughter inherited. Sarah Whitmore Stratton, I believe? Though I haven't spoken to her directly. Everything goes through the estate lawyer. The room tilted. Sarah had inherited the cottage. Never mentioned it. Had kept it secret even from him. I'm sorry, Jonathan managed. Did you say Whitmore Stratton? Hyphenated? Yes, that's what's in our records. Is there a problem? Sarah had never hyphenated her name. She'd kept Hastings. Always Hastings. Unless she'd used a different name for the inheritance. A secret name for a secret property. No problem, Jonathan said. Thank you for your help. He hung up and looked at the girls. Your mother and Sarah were smarter than I gave them credit for. What do you mean? Lily asked. I mean they created a whole separate identity. Sarah Whitmore Stratton. The cottage in Cape Cod is owned by a person who technically doesn't exist. And that's where she hid the final piece of evidence. Emma frowned. But if the Covenant is watching you, they'll know the second you go there. They will, Jonathan agreed. Which is why I'm not going to hide it. He opened his laptop and composed an email to the address that had contacted him. You want the file? Meet me at the Whitmore cottage in Cape Cod tomorrow at noon. Come alone. We'll make the trade. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. That's insane, Emma said. You can't trust them. I don't trust them. But I need to know what Sarah hid. And more importantly, I need to make sure you two are safe. If I give them what they want. They'll kill you anyway, Lily interrupted. Mama said the Covenant never leaves witnesses. She was probably right. But Jonathan was out of options. The world thought he was a fraud. Law enforcement was investigating him for market manipulation. And 2 7-year-old girls were depending on him to somehow fix this. His phone rang. Unknown number again. He answered. Bold move, Mr. Stratton, Victor Hastings said. But unnecessary. We already know about the cottage. In fact, we're here right now. Jonathan's blood turned to ice. What? You think you're the only one who can trace property records? We've been watching the cottage for weeks, waiting for you to remember. And this morning, we found what we were looking for. No. No, that wasn't possible. You're bluffing, Jonathan said. Am I? Let me describe it for you. A metal box, buried under the floorboards in the bedroom closet. Inside, a second flash drive and a letter addressed to you. Shall I read it aloud? Jonathan couldn't breathe. My dearest Jonathan, Victor read, his voice mocking. If you're reading this, you've figured out my last secret. I'm sorry for all the lies. Sorry for the danger I brought into your life. But you need to understand, the evidence on this drive isn't just about the Covenant's crimes. It's about their structure. Their true power source. The 12 families who control everything. Jonathan's mind raced. If Victor had the drive, if he'd found Sarah's final message. Destroy this information, Victor continued reading. Don't try to use it. Don't try to release it. The names on this list, if they're exposed, the people they control will burn the world down rather than face justice. Millions will die in the chaos. Please, Jonathan. For me. For the future. Let some secrets stay buried. Silence. Then Victor's voice, no longer mocking. Deadly serious. Your wife was wiser than her sister. She understood that some truths are too dangerous to reveal. Catherine was an idealist. Sarah was a realist. What do you want? Jonathan whispered. You've already released the evidence about our operations. That damage is done. But the final list, the 12 families, their connections, their control systems, that stays buried. In exchange, we let you and the girls live. We stop hunting you. We disappear. Why would I believe you? Because you don't have a choice. We have leverage now. Sarah's letter proves you know the information is too dangerous to release. If you try anyway, we'll make sure that letter goes public. We'll paint you as a terrorist willing to destroy the global economy. You'll lose any credibility you have left." Jonathan looked at Emma and Lily, both watching him with frightened eyes. "How do I know you really have the drive?" he asked. "Check your email." Jonathan pulled up his inbox. New message. An attachment, a photo of a metal box, opened. Inside, a flash drive and a letter in Sarah's handwriting. It was real. Victor had found Sarah's final hiding place. "You have 12 hours to agree," Victor said. "After that, we release the letter and come for the girls. Your choice, Mr. Stratton. Peace or annihilation." The line went dead. Jonathan sat frozen, his mind spinning. Sarah had hidden a second drive. Evidence so damaging she'd begged him never to release it. And now the Covenant had it. "What did they say?" Emma asked. "They found it. The final evidence. And Sarah's letter says it's too dangerous to use." "Do you believe that?" Lily asked. "Did he?" Sarah had spent years protecting Catherine and the girls. She'd died rather than betray them. Would she really have hidden evidence and then asked Jonathan to bury it? Unless. Jonathan pulled up the video from Sarah's birthday again. Watched her open the book. Listened to her words. "I'm going to put it in our safe place." Not the safe place. Our safe place. Sarah had been talking to the camera. Talking to him. Leaving a message. He scrolled through more videos. Found one from their Cape Cod vacation. Sarah walking on the beach, laughing as waves splashed her feet. "This is perfect," she said in the video. "I wish we could stay here forever. Just you and me and nothing else matters." And then, so quiet he'd missed it the first 100 times he'd watched, "Remember this, Jonathan. When everything else is gone, remember the lighthouse." The lighthouse. There was a lighthouse at the end of the beach. They'd hiked to it one evening, watched the sunset from the rocks. Sarah had taken a photo. Made Jonathan promise to bring her back someday. The cottage was a decoy. Sarah had hidden the real evidence at the lighthouse. And Victor Hastings had just revealed he didn't actually have it. He'd found a fake drop, probably planted by Sarah as insurance. The letter was real, but the drive wasn't. Jonathan almost laughed. His wife had played the Covenant. Even in death, she'd been 3 steps ahead. "We're going to Cape Cod," he said. "That's what they want," Emma protested. "No. They want me to believe they've won. They want me scared enough to take their deal." Jonathan grabbed his laptop. "But Sarah wouldn't have left me a message to bury the truth. She'd have left me a message to finish what she started." He pulled up the video one more time. Watched Sarah's face. Saw the determination in her eyes when she said, "Remember the lighthouse." She'd known. Somehow, she'd known she wouldn't survive to see this through. And she'd trusted Jonathan to understand. "What if you're wrong?" Lily asked quietly. "What if Sarah really did want you to stop?" It was a fair question. Jonathan thought about the woman he'd married. The woman who'd kept impossible secrets but never once wavered in protecting the people she loved. The woman who'd died rather than betray her sister. "Sarah fought her whole life," he said finally. Fought to survive, fought to build something good, fought to protect Emma and Lily even though she never got to meet them. She wouldn't have spent her last months hiding evidence just to ask me to bury it. She'd have destroyed it herself." He looked at both girls. "Your mother and Sarah didn't run from the truth. They preserved it. Protected it. Died for it. And I'm not going to waste their sacrifice by being too scared to finish what they started." Emma smiled. It was small, but it was real. "Mama would like you," she said. "Sarah already did," Jonathan replied. "That's why I'm still here." He started packing. They'd leave tonight. Drive through the night. Get to the lighthouse before Victor realized he'd been played. The final evidence was still out there. And Jonathan Stratton, billionaire, widower, and accidental father to 2 orphaned girls, was going to make sure the truth Sarah died protecting finally saw the light. Even if it cost him everything. This is getting intense. What do you think Sarah really hid at the lighthouse? Drop your theories in the comments. And seriously, if you haven't subscribed, do it now because parts 6 to 9 are going to be absolutely explosive. You don't want to miss what happens when Jonathan finally uncovers Sarah's last secret. They left Vermont at 2 a.m., Jonathan driving a Honda Civic he'd bought cash from a retired teacher who didn't ask questions. The girls slept in the back seat, wrapped in blankets, while Jonathan pushed through exhaustion on gas station coffee and pure adrenaline. Cape Cod was 6 hours away. Victor's deadline was in 10. Jonathan had the advantage of surprise. Victor thought he'd won, thought Jonathan was considering the deal. He wouldn't expect Jonathan to make a move this fast. But advantages were fragile things. One mistake, one piece of bad luck, and they'd all end up like Sarah and Catherine. The highway was empty at this hour. Just Jonathan, the girls, and the ghosts of 2 women who'd sacrificed everything for a truth the world wasn't sure it wanted. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Tick-tock, Mr. Stratton. 9 hours left. Make the right choice. Victor, applying pressure. Jonathan deleted it and kept driving. Dawn broke over Massachusetts as they crossed the state line. Emma woke first, blinking against the sunrise. "Where are we?" she mumbled. "Almost there," Jonathan said. "Another hour." She sat up, careful not to wake Lily. "You really think Sarah hid something at a lighthouse?" "I think she left me a message. Whether I'm smart enough to decode it." He shrugged. "We'll find out. What if the covenant is already there? Then we improvise." Emma was quiet for a moment. "You're different than you were 3 days ago." "How so?" "Braver. Or maybe crazier." "Mama said there's not much difference." Jonathan laughed despite himself. "Your mother sounds like she was something else." "She was everything." Emma's voice got soft. "She made us memorize poems and taught us to cook and told us stories about brave women in history. Joan of Arc and Harriet Tubman and Malala. She said the world tries to make women small, but some women refuse to shrink." "Sarah was like that too," Jonathan said. "I didn't fully appreciate it when she was alive. She'd walk into boardrooms full of men twice her age and just command the room. She made me better. Braver." "Do you think they planned it?" Emma asked. "That they'd both fall in love with you? Even though only Sarah could be with you?" The question hit Jonathan like a physical blow. "I don't. I never met Catherine. I didn't even know she existed until you showed up at the cemetery. But she knew you. She watched you through Sarah's eyes for years. Read Sarah's emails. Saw photos of your life together." Emma looked out the window. "Mama never dated anyone. Never even seemed interested. Lily and I used to wonder if she was lonely. She had you too. Kids aren't the same as a partner. Mama said that once. She said Sarah got the full life, love and marriage and someone to share everything with. And Mama got us, which was wonderful, but not complete." Jonathan's chest ached. Catherine had spent years alone, raising twins and hiding, watching her sister live the life they'd both deserved. And she'd done it without resentment, with only love and pride for Sarah's happiness. "I wish I could have met her," Jonathan said quietly. "Told her thank you for protecting the evidence. For trusting me with you." "You'll meet her," Emma said with the certainty only children possess. "When we finish this. She and Sarah will both know you did right by them." They reached Cape Cod at 7:30 a.m. The beaches were empty this early in November, just seagulls and crashing waves and the salt smell of the Atlantic. Jonathan parked 3 blocks from the cottage, a precaution. If Victor had people watching, he didn't want to advertise his arrival. "Stay close," he told the girls. If anything feels wrong, we run. No heroics. They walked down the beach path Jonathan remembered from 3 years ago. The cottage came into view, a small weathered structure with blue shutters and a wraparound porch. Exactly as he remembered. But something was off. The door was ajar. "Someone's been here," Emma whispered. Jonathan's heart sank. Victor's people. They'd beaten him to it. But no, the cottage had been the fake drop. Victor thought he already had what he needed from here. So who? A figure emerged from the cottage. Female. Mid-30s. Dark hair pulled back. Professional clothes under a winter coat. She stopped when she saw Jonathan, and her expression shifted from surprise to relief. "Thank God," she said. "Jonathan Stratton? Who are you?" The woman pulled out FBI credentials. "Special Agent Claire Donovan. I've been trying to reach you for 3 days. Your office said you were unreachable." FBI. This was either very good or catastrophically bad. "Why are you looking for me?" Jonathan asked, positioning himself between the agent and the girls. "Because you're either the biggest whistleblower in modern history or you're about to get yourself killed chasing your wife's ghost." Claire glanced at Emma and Lily. "And because intelligence suggests Victor Hastings has a kill team en route to this location right now." Jonathan's blood ran cold. "How do you know?" "The Covenant files you released? They triggered investigations in 17 countries. Every intelligence agency on the planet is scrambling to verify the information. My team has been tracking Covenant movements for 48 hours. She looked at her watch. "Victor's people left Boston 90 minutes ago. They'll be here in 20 minutes, maybe less." "Then we need to go," Jonathan said, grabbing the girl's hands. "No," Claire said firmly. "We need to finish this. The FBI has protected witnesses in place, resources, safe houses. But I need your cooperation. I need to know everything Sarah and Catherine knew." "Why should I trust you?" Claire pulled out a tablet and showed him a photo. It was Catherine, very much alive, sitting in what looked like a conference room. The timestamp read 2 years ago. "Catherine Corleone came to us 3 years ago," Claire explained. "Said she had evidence of a global criminal conspiracy. We thought she was paranoid. Schizophrenic, maybe. The claims were too big, too coordinated. No one believed her. But you do now," Jonathan said. "The files you released prove everything she told us. And they prove we failed her. We let her walk out of that meeting and didn't follow up. 6 months later, someone burned her house down and killed her. That's on us." Claire's jaw tightened. "I'm not letting her daughters die because we were too stupid to listen the first time." Emma squeezed Jonathan's hand. "I think we can trust her." "Why?" Jonathan asked. "Because Mama talked about an FBI agent once. A woman who was kind but didn't believe her. Mama said maybe someday she will. Maybe this is someday." Claire looked at Emma with something like pain in her eyes. "Your mother showed me photos of you. Told me she was teaching you to survive because she knew she wouldn't be around to protect you forever. I told her she was being dramatic. I was wrong." The moment hung there, heavy with regret. Then headlights appeared on the coastal road. 2 black SUVs, moving fast. "That's them," Claire said. "We're out of time." Jonathan made a split-second decision. "The lighthouse. 1 mile north. There's something hidden there." "Then let's move." They ran. Claire led them off the main beach path, cutting through dunes and beach grass. The girls kept pace, their small legs pumping hard. Jonathan could hear engines behind them, doors slamming, shouts. Victor's people had arrived. The lighthouse rose in the distance, a white tower against gray sky. Jonathan had climbed it once with Sarah, counted the 156 steps to the top, looked out over the ocean while she talked about wanting to bring their future children here someday. Children she'd never have. Children who existed anyway, in the form of her sister's twins. How many are there? Jonathan gasped as they ran. 6 in the vehicles, probably more in reserve. Claire had her phone out, typing while running. I've got backup coming, but they're 20 minutes out. We need to hold until then. Hold. Against professionally trained killers. For 20 minutes. They reached the lighthouse. The door was locked. Move, Claire ordered, pulling out her weapon and shooting the lock twice. The door crashed open. They stumbled inside, into the musty darkness of the abandoned lighthouse keeper's quarters. Up, Jonathan said, pointing to the spiral staircase. The light room at the top. There's only one way in. They climbed. The stairs seemed endless, circling upward in dizzying spirals. Emma and Lily climbed ahead, nimble and quick. Jonathan's lungs burned. Behind them, the door crashed open again. FBI! Claire shouted down the stairs. Drop your weapons. Gunfire answered her. Bullets ricocheted off the metal staircase. They kept climbing. Finally, they burst into the light room, the glass-enclosed space at the lighthouse top where the beacon used to rotate. Now it was just an empty room with 360-degree views of the ocean and beach. Beautiful. And completely indefensible. Claire positioned herself at the stairwell entrance, weapon ready. How much time do you need? For what? Jonathan asked. To find whatever Sarah hid. That's why we're here, right? Right. The evidence. Jonathan looked around the light room. Metal walls. Glass windows. The rusted mechanism where the beacon used to turn. Where would Sarah have hidden something? He thought back to the video. Remember the lighthouse. Not find something at the lighthouse. Remember it. What did he remember? Climbing with Sarah. Her excitement at the view. The way she'd counted every step out loud. 156 steps, Jonathan. That's 12 dozen plus 12. A dozen dozens. She'd been obsessed with the number. Made him count with her. Jonathan crossed to the beacon mechanism. It was bolted to the floor with 12 large bolts. 12. He knelt and examined them. 11 were rusted solid. But the 12th, the one at 3 o'clock, looked newer. Less corroded. I need something to turn this, he said. Emma pulled a multi-tool from her pocket. Mama always made us carry one. Smart woman. Jonathan fitted the wrench to the bolt and turned. It resisted, then gave. He spun it free and lifted it out. Underneath, carved into the metal floor, were 3 words in Sarah's handwriting. Look up, Jonathan. He looked up. The glass ceiling of the light room had metal framing. And wedged in one of the frames, wrapped in waterproof plastic, was a flash drive. Sarah had climbed up here. Somehow scaled the beacon mechanism and hidden the drive where only someone looking for it would find it. Where only someone who remembered her counting the steps would know to look. Jonathan grabbed an old chair and climbed up, stretching to reach the frame. His fingers closed around the plastic package. Got it. Gunfire exploded below. Claire fired back, controlled bursts. They're pushing, she shouted. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. Jonathan jumped down, package in hand. Inside was the flash drive and another letter. He ripped it open. Jonathan. If you found this, you understood my message. You always understood me better than I gave you credit for. This drive contains the final piece. Not just evidence of crimes, but the Covenant's entire operational structure. Bank accounts. Passwords. Control systems. Everything needed to completely dismantle them. Victor will tell you it's too dangerous to release. He'll say the chaos will destroy innocent lives. He's not entirely wrong. This information will cause chaos. Markets will crash. Governments will fall. Systems that billions depend on will collapse. But here's the truth he won't tell you, those systems are already broken. They're built on corruption and murder and the suffering of everyone who isn't part of the Covenant's protected class. The chaos of destroying them will hurt. But the freedom that comes after will save countless lives. The choice is yours. I can't make it for you. But I trust you, Jonathan. I always have. One more thing, the girls. Emma and Lily. If they're with you, and knowing my sister's planning, they are, please love them. Not because they're Catherine's or because I asked. But because they deserve a father who shows them the world can be good. Be brave, my love. Finish what Kat and I started. Forever yours. Sarah. Jonathan's vision blurred. His wife's final words, written in anticipation of a future where she'd be gone but her fight would continue. She'd trusted him to make the impossible choice. Another burst of gunfire. Closer now. Jonathan. Claire shouted. They're almost through. He looked at Emma and Lily, both pressed against the far wall, frightened but trusting. Trusting him to protect them. Trusting him to do the right thing. Sarah trusted him to finish the fight. Catherine trusted him with her daughters. Maxwell died to get the first evidence out. And now Jonathan held the key to destroying the Covenant completely. Or he could hide it. Make a deal. Save the girls and himself. Live the quiet life Sarah never could. His phone buzzed. Victor. Last chance, Stratton. I have snipers on the beach. My men in the lighthouse. You're surrounded. Give up the drive and we all walk away. Jonathan looked at the phone. At the drive. At the girls. Then he did something Victor Hastings wouldn't expect. He opened the lighthouse window. What are you doing? Claire yelled. Jonathan held up his phone and started a video livestream on his social media account. The same account that had 6 million followers from his days as a tech CEO, before the Covenant scandal. Within seconds, viewers started joining. Hundreds. Thousands. My name is Jonathan Stratton, he said to the camera. 3 days ago I released evidence of a global criminal conspiracy. Today, I'm about to release the rest of it. But first, I want you to see who's trying to stop me. He turned the camera toward the stairwell, where Claire was fighting. Toward the window, where figures with rifles were visible on the beach below. These men work for the Covenant, Jonathan continued. They've killed to keep their secrets. They murdered my wife, Sarah Stratton. They murdered Catherine Corleone. They've murdered countless others. And right now, they're trying to kill 2 innocent 7-year-old girls whose only crime was being born to a woman brave enough to fight back. The viewer count hit 50,000. Then 100,000. I'm uploading the final evidence now, Jonathan said. All of it. Bank accounts. Names. Control systems. Everything needed to end the Covenant forever. And if I don't survive the next 5 minutes, you'll know exactly who killed me. He plugged the drive into his phone using an adapter. Started the upload to cloud storage with public access. His phone exploded with notifications. News outlets picking up the livestream. Government agencies. Law enforcement. And most importantly, witnesses. 2 million people watching live. Victor couldn't kill him now. Not without confirming everything Jonathan was saying. The gunfire stopped. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Multiple people. Claire kept her weapon trained on the entrance. A voice echoed up. Mr. Stratton. I believe we have a stalemate. Victor Hastings himself, coming up the stairs slowly, hands visible and empty. He emerged into the light room. Older than Jonathan expected, maybe 60, with the polished appearance of old money. Expensive suit. Cold eyes. 2 million viewers, Victor said, glancing at Jonathan's phone. Clever. You've made killing you politically impossible. Congratulations. The evidence is uploading, Jonathan said. You can't stop it. No. But I can offer context. Victor turned to the camera phone, composed and calm. Ladies and gentlemen, what Mr. Stratton isn't telling you is that his wife was mentally ill. Paranoid delusions. The evidence he's releasing is a mixture of legitimate financial data and elaborate fabrications designed to destroy innocent people's reputations. Lie, Jonathan said. Is it? Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. Sarah Stratton spent her final year in and out of psychiatric care. The medications, the paranoia, the breakdown. It's all documented. I have medical records. Forged records, Claire interjected. The FBI has already verified. The FBI is compromised, Victor said smoothly. Agent Donovan herself is under investigation for fabricating evidence. This entire situation is a conspiracy theory that spiraled out of control. He was good. Jonathan had to give him that. Even now, with millions watching, Victor was spinning the narrative. Creating doubt. Then explain the first data dump, Jonathan said. Independent analysts verified. Verified what? That financial transactions occurred? That wealthy people have offshore accounts? Victor shrugged. None of that is evidence of murder or conspiracy. It's evidence that rich people protect their assets. Legal, if morally questionable. The upload hit 47%. Jonathan needed to stall longer. You killed Sarah, he said. Induced an aneurysm. Your wife died of natural causes. I'm sorry for your loss, but grief has made you irrational. Victor's voice was perfectly sympathetic. These children, Emma and Lily, they need help, not to be dragged into your wife's delusions. They're Catherine's daughters, Jonathan said. Catherine Corleone was a paranoid schizophrenic who died in an accidental fire. She homeschooled these girls, isolated them, filled their heads with conspiracy theories. They're victims, Mr. Stratton. Victims you're now exploiting. 60% uploaded. Emma stepped forward suddenly. You killed my mother. I watched you do it. Victor's expression didn't change. You watched a fire, child. A terrible accident. Your mother's mental illness made her careless. You shot her, Emma said, her voice clear and strong. In the kitchen. I was hiding in the pantry with Lily. You asked her where the evidence was. She said she'd never tell you. And you shot her. 2 million people heard that testimony. Victor's smile tightened. The trauma has confused you, dear. Children often misremember. Then explain this, Lily said, pulling something from her pocket. It was a button. Brass, with an engraved crest. It came off your jacket when you grabbed Mama, Lily continued. I picked it up after you left. Before the fire. She held it toward the camera. The crest was clearly visible, an ornate design with a Latin phrase. Jonathan zoomed in on it with his phone. That's the covenant seal, Claire said quietly. The 12 family symbol. It's in all the documents. Victor's calm cracked. Just for a second. But it was enough. You can spin this all you want, Jonathan said. But those girls were there. They saw. And now millions of people know exactly what you did. 85% uploaded. This isn't over, Victor said softly. Even if you release everything, even if some of us fall, the covenant is bigger than individuals. We've survived for 200 years. We'll survive this. Maybe, Jonathan agreed. But you won't. Everyone watching knows your face now. Knows your name. You personally killed Catherine. That makes you a murderer, not just a conspiracy. 92%. Victor looked at Jonathan with something like respect. Sarah chose well. You're stronger than I expected. She deserved better than dying for your secrets. She deserved better than a husband who let her carry those secrets alone. The words hit home, and Victor knew it. But Jonathan didn't flinch. You're right, he said. I should have seen. Should have known. Should have protected her. But I'm protecting her memory now. And I'm protecting the girl she died for. That's going to have to be enough. 100%. Upload complete. It's done, Jonathan said to the camera. Everything is now public record. The Covenant's bank accounts. Their power structure. All of it. To law enforcement worldwide, you have everything you need. To the Covenant's victims, you have proof. And to Victor Hastings, you have nowhere left to hide. He ended the live stream. 3 million people had watched. The silence in the lighthouse was absolute. Then Claire's phone rang. Then Jonathan's. Then multiple phones outside on the beach. The world was reacting. Victor looked at his own phone. His face went pale. Asset freeze orders, he said quietly. The Treasury Department. The EU. International banks. They're freezing every account in the files. That was fast, Jonathan said. You don't understand what you've done. The economic impact will be painful. But temporary. People will adapt. Jonathan picked up Emma and Lily, one in each arm. You've spent 2 centuries convincing the world they need you. Time for them to learn they don't. Claire stepped forward, weapon still drawn. Victor Hastings, you're under arrest for the murder of Catherine Corleone. You have the right to remain. Victor moved faster than Jonathan expected. Pulled a small pistol from his jacket. But he didn't point it at Jonathan or Claire. He pointed it at himself. The Covenant protects its own, he said. Even from justice. And he pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the lighthouse. Victor Hastings, member of one of the 12 founding families of the Covenant, fell. Emma and Lily buried their faces in Jonathan's shoulders, shaking. Claire knelt beside Victor, checking for a pulse she wouldn't find. He's gone. Outside, sirens were approaching. Police. FBI. Coast Guard. The cavalry, finally arriving. Jonathan carried the girls down the spiral staircase, away from the violence, toward the light of day. They emerged onto the beach to find a dozen vehicles, agents everywhere, Victor's men in handcuffs. It was over. The fight Sarah and Catherine started, the war that had cost them everything, was finally over. But as Jonathan held the twins and watched the sun break through the clouds, he realized something. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Because 2 little girls needed a home. Needed a father. Needed someone to show them that the world could be good again. And Jonathan Stratton, who'd lost his wife, his company, his carefully ordered life, had just found something more important than all of it. Purpose. I know this was intense, but we're not done yet. Comment below, what should Jonathan do now? And make sure you're subscribed because the final 3 parts are going to show you what happens when someone chooses love and family over everything else. Trust me, you don't want to miss this ending. The FBI safe house was in rural Connecticut, a converted farmhouse surrounded by fields and forest. 24-hour protection. Encrypted communications. The kind of security Jonathan's old life would have considered paranoid. Now it felt barely adequate. They'd been there for 4 days while the world absorbed the Covenant revelations. 4 days of watching news coverage, giving depositions, and trying to help Emma and Lily process everything that had happened. 4 days of Jonathan learning what it meant to be a father. You're doing it wrong, Emma informed him, watching as he attempted to braid Lily's hair. There's a wrong way to braid hair? Jonathan asked, fingers tangled in dark curls. Mama did it tighter. And you're supposed to put the right strand over, not under. Jonathan tried again. The result looked like a bird's nest. Lily giggled. It's okay. We can just wear ponytails. Ponytails I can do, Jonathan said gratefully. He'd faced hostile board meetings, negotiated billion-dollar deals, and built a tech empire from nothing. But helping 2 7-year-old girls with their morning routine was humbling in ways he hadn't anticipated. Every small task revealed how much he didn't know. What they ate for breakfast. How they liked their sandwiches cut. That Lily was allergic to strawberries but Emma wasn't. That they needed nightlights but not the same color, Emma's had to be blue, Lily's yellow. Details Catherine had known instinctively. Details Sarah would have loved learning. Details Jonathan was figuring out one mistake at a time. "You'll get better," Emma said kindly, watching him struggle with the ponytail holders. "Mama said parenting is just practice and love. Your mother was a wise woman. She was scared a lot too. But she didn't let us see it." Emma's expression turned serious. "Are you scared?" Jonathan secured the ponytail, finally, and sat back. "Terrified." "Of what?" "Of messing this up. Of not knowing how to help you. He stopped, but Emma's eyes demanded honesty. "Of you two waking up one day and realizing you'd be better off with someone else. Someone who knows what they're doing." "Mama didn't know what she was doing either," Lily said quietly. "She told us that once. She said nobody really knows how to be a parent. They just love their kids and try their best. And hope their best is good enough," Emma added. "You're trying, Mr. Stratton. That counts." "You can call me Jonathan," he said. "Or I don't know. Whatever feels comfortable." Both girls exchanged glances. That twin communication again. "What about Dad?" Lily asked, so softly Jonathan almost missed it. His throat closed. "You want to call me Dad? Mama said our biological father was a man who donated to help her have babies. That he wasn't a dad, just genetics. But that real fathers are the ones who stay." Emma looked at him with those eyes so much like Sarah's. "You stayed. You're still staying. Even though it's hard and scary." Jonathan had cried more in the past week than in his entire adult life. He added to the tally now, tears spilling over despite his best efforts. "I'd be honored," he managed. "If you want to call me Dad." Lily launched herself into his arms. Emma followed, more reserved but just as tight. They stayed like that, three broken people holding each other together, until Agent Claire Donovan knocked on the bedroom door. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, though her expression suggested she wasn't sorry at all. She looked pleased. "Jonathan, we need to talk. The girls can hang out with Agent Martinez. He's teaching them card tricks." Emma and Lily perked up. Martinez had won them over on day 2 with sleight of hand magic and an apparently infinite supply of candy. Once they were gone, Claire's expression turned serious. "The media wants an interview," she said. 60 Minutes, CNN, everyone. They want to hear your story. The widower who exposed a global conspiracy. The billionaire who chose 2 orphans over his empire. "I didn't choose anything," Jonathan said. "The girls needed help. It wasn't a choice. That's exactly why people want to hear from you. You're not spinning this as heroism. You're just human." Claire sat across from him. "And we need that humanity right now. The Covenant revelations are causing chaos. Markets are unstable. People are scared. They need to understand why this mattered. Why it was worth the disruption. So I'm supposed to be the poster child for burning down global financial systems? You're supposed to help people understand that Sarah and Catherine weren't crazy. That they were heroes who saw corruption and fought it, even knowing it would cost them everything." Claire leaned forward. "The Covenant's lawyers are already working overtime. They're painting the victims as mentally ill conspiracy theorists. Victor's death is being spun as a tragic suicide by a man falsely accused. We're losing the narrative, Jonathan. Victor killed Catherine. Emma witnessed it. Emma is 7. Defense lawyers will say she's traumatized, confused, manipulated by the adults around her." Claire's jaw tightened. "We need adults willing to testify. We need you to tell the world what Sarah and Catherine sacrificed. Otherwise, their deaths meant nothing." Jonathan thought about Sarah's final letter. Be brave, my love. Finish what Kat and I started. Testifying publicly would make him a permanent target. The Covenant's remaining allies would spend years trying to discredit him. Every business deal, every relationship, every moment of his past would be scrutinized and weaponized. But staying silent would let Victor's allies win. Would let them paint Sarah as delusional and Catherine as paranoid. Would teach Emma and Lily that sometimes fighting isn't worth the cost. Okay, Jonathan said. I'll do the interview. There's one more thing. Claire pulled out a folder. Child Services has questions about the girls. Jonathan's blood ran cold. What kind of questions? The legal kind. You're not their biological father. You have no formal custody arrangement. And while Catherine's letter named you as guardian, it's not legally binding. The state is questioning whether 2 orphaned girls should be placed with a man they've known for less than a week. A man currently under investigation for financial crimes. I'm not under investigation. The SEC cleared me yesterday. Public perception doesn't care about SEC clearances. You're controversial. Some people think you're a hero. Others think you're a terrorist who crashed the global economy. Claire's expression softened. And Child Services' job is to prioritize the girls' well-being above all else. That means considering all options. What options? Jonathan asked, though he dreaded the answer. Foster care. Group homes. Eventually, adoption by a family with experience raising children. No. The word came out harder than Jonathan intended. No. Catherine trusted me. Sarah trusted me. The girls want to stay with me. What the girls want matters, but they're 7. The courts will decide what's in their best interest. And you think separating them from the only person they have left is in their best interest? I think, Claire said carefully, that you need to prove you're capable of being their father. Not just emotionally. Legally. Which means getting custody arrangements formalized. Character witnesses. Home studies. Everything. Jonathan felt like he was drowning. He'd faced down the Covenant, exposed a global conspiracy, and watched a man die. But the idea of losing Emma and Lily to bureaucracy terrified him more than any of it. How do I fight this? He asked. You show them you're serious. That this isn't about guilt or obligation. That you genuinely want to be their father. Claire stood. The interview is a start. Show the world who you are. Who they are. Why you belong together. After she left, Jonathan sat alone in the quiet farmhouse. A week ago, he'd been a billionaire CEO with a carefully ordered life. Now he was unemployed, semi-famous, and fighting for custody of 2 girls who'd turned his existence inside out. He should feel overwhelmed. Lost. Instead, for the first time since Sarah died, he felt clear. The company didn't matter. The money didn't matter. His reputation didn't matter. Emma and Lily mattered. Giving them the childhood their mothers wanted them to have mattered. Everything else was just noise. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Stratton. The voice was female, elderly, with a Boston accent. My name is Eleanor Hastings. I'm Victor's mother. Jonathan's grip tightened on the phone. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Please. Just listen. A shaky breath. Victor was my son. I loved him. But he was wrong. What he did to those women, to Catherine and Sarah, was unforgivable. Then why are you calling? Because the Covenant is my family's legacy. 5 generations. My grandfather helped found it. My father expanded it. My son died for it. Another breath. And I'm done. I'm 84 years old, Mr. Stratton. I don't have much time left. And I'll be damned if I spend my final years protecting an organization built on murder. Jonathan sat up straighter. What are you saying? I'm saying I have information. Documents Victor kept in the family estate. Names of people still operating within the covenant. Plans to rebuild. Evidence that could finish what your wife started. Her voice strengthened. But I won't give it to the FBI. They'll bury it in bureaucracy. I'll give it to you. On one condition. What condition? Tell the truth about Victor. Not the sanitized version his lawyers are pushing. The real truth. That he was a murderer who chose the covenant over his own humanity. A pause. He was my son. But those girls deserve justice for their mother. And I deserve to die knowing I finally did the right thing. Jonathan closed his eyes. An old woman choosing conscience over legacy. Just like the girl's grandfather had. Maybe redemption was possible, even for the covenant's architects. Where are you? Jonathan asked. Martha's Vineyard. The family estate. Can you come tomorrow? I'm in protective custody. I'm not sure they'll let me. Bring the agents. Bring cameras. Bring the world if you want. Eleanor's voice was firm. I've spent my whole life hiding. I'm done hiding. They arranged the meeting for the following afternoon. When Jonathan told Claire, she looked at him like he'd lost his mind. It could be a trap, she said. The covenant trying to lure you out. She sounded genuine. People who murder for a living are good at sounding genuine. Maybe. But if she's telling the truth, we can't ignore it. Jonathan looked toward the room where Emma and Lily were learning card tricks. Sarah and Catherine spent years gathering evidence. If there's more, if we can completely dismantle the covenant, then maybe the girls can grow up without looking over their shoulders. Claire studied him. You've changed. How? A week ago, you were a CEO. Risk-averse. Careful. Now you're ready to walk into potential danger because an old woman you've never met promised information. A week ago, I didn't have daughters depending on me to be brave. Claire smiled. Fatherhood suits you. That night, Jonathan helped the girls get ready for bed. Brushing teeth, picking out pajamas, reading stories. Normal things. Parent things. Things he was still learning but getting better at. Can I ask you something? Lily said as he tucked her in. Anything. When you think about Sarah, does it still hurt? Jonathan sat on the edge of her bed. Yes. Every day. Does it get better? Some days. Some days it's worse. He smoothed her hair back. But I'm learning that grief isn't something you get over. It's something you carry. And eventually, the weight feels less crushing and more like remembering. Does that make sense? Lily nodded. I dream about Mama sometimes. Happy dreams. We're baking cookies or reading books. And when I wake up, I'm sad she's gone but happy I got to see her again. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Emma says Mama and Sarah are watching us. That they're proud of us. Do you think that's true? Jonathan thought about his wife, who'd spent her final months planning for this exact moment. About Catherine, who'd trusted him with her most precious gift. Yes, he said. I think they're watching. And I think they're proud of all of us. After the girls were asleep, Jonathan stood in the hallway between their room and his. Listening to their quiet breathing. Marveling at how quickly they'd become the center of his universe. He pulled out his phone and looked at photos of Sarah. Not with sadness this time. With gratitude. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known he'd need something to live for after she was gone. And she'd given him Emma and Lily. Not as a burden. As a gift. Thank you, he whispered to the photo. To his wife. To the universe. For trusting me with them. For believing I could do this. The house settled around him. Safe. Quiet. Full of the possibility of healing. Tomorrow he'd meet Eleanor Hastings. Tomorrow he'd face more danger, more questions, more uncertainty. But tonight, he was just a father watching over his daughters. And for the first time since Sarah died, Jonathan Stratton felt something he hadn't dared hope for. Peace. The stakes keep rising. What do you think Eleanor Hastings really wants? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you're loving Jonathan's journey from CEO to dad, make sure you're subscribed. The next 2 parts are going to give you all the feels. We're heading toward an ending you won't forget. Martha's Vineyard in late November was cold and windswept, the summer tourists long gone. The Hastings estate sat on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, a sprawling Victorian mansion that had weathered 2 centuries of New England storms. Claire insisted on bringing a full tactical team. 6 agents, 3 vehicles, surveillance drones. They approached the estate like a military operation. Jonathan sat in the back seat with Emma and Lily, both unusually quiet. You didn't have to come, he told them for the 3rd time. You could have stayed at the safe house with Agent Martinez. We want to see where the bad man lived, Emma said. Mama always said you should face the things that scare you. Otherwise they control you forever. Your mother was very wise, Jonathan said. And very brave. So are you, Lily said, taking his hand. We decided last night. You're the bravest person we know. Jonathan's chest tightened. A week ago, he'd been just a man trying to survive his grief. Now he was someone these girls believed in. The responsibility was terrifying. And exactly what he needed. The estate's gates were open. They drove up a long gravel driveway lined with bare oak trees. The house loomed ahead, all turrets and gables and windows that reflected the gray sky. An elderly woman waited on the front steps, leaning on a cane. She wore a simple black dress and pearls, her white hair pulled back in a bun. Eleanor Hastings looked exactly like old money, refined, dignified, and utterly exhausted. Claire exited first, weapon ready. The tactical team fanned out, securing the perimeter. Jonathan stepped out with the girls, and Eleanor's eyes immediately went to them. Catherine's daughters, she said softly. You look just like her. Just like Sarah. My God, the resemblance is. She trailed off, emotion flickering across her weathered face. Mrs. Hastings, Claire said formally. We need to clear the property before. The house is empty except for me and my nurse, Eleanor interrupted. I sent the staff away yesterday. You're welcome to search, but you won't find any threats. Just an old woman trying to make amends before she meets her maker. The tactical team searched anyway. 20 minutes later, they confirmed the house was clear. Eleanor led them inside, moving slowly with her cane. The interior was exactly what Jonathan expected, antique furniture, oil paintings of stern ancestors, the accumulated wealth of centuries. The documents are in my late husband's study, Eleanor said. But first, I'd like to speak with the girls. If that's acceptable. Jonathan looked at Emma and Lily. Both nodded. They followed Eleanor into a sunroom overlooking the ocean. She settled into a chair with a sigh and gestured for the girls to sit across from her. I owe you an apology, Eleanor said directly. My son killed your mother. Nothing I say can change that or make it right. But I'm sorry. Deeply, truly sorry. Emma's jaw tightened. Why did he do it? Because he believed the covenant was more important than individual lives. Because he was raised to think our family's power justified anything. Eleanor's hands trembled on her cane. Because I failed to teach him that some things, decency, compassion, human life, matter more than legacy. Did you know? Lily asked. What he was doing? I suspected. For years, I suspected. And I did nothing. Eleanor met Lily's eyes. That makes me complicit. I may not have pulled the trigger, but I didn't stop it either. I chose my family over justice. Just like my father did. Just like his father before him. But you're choosing different now, Emma said quietly. Too late to matter. But yes. I'm choosing different. Eleanor reached into her pocket and pulled out a flash drive. This contains everything. Victor's personal files. Communications with the remaining Covenant members. Plans to rebuild their network. And something else, evidence that Victor murdered Sarah Stratton. Jonathan went very still. What evidence? Email communications with the man he hired. Medical records showing how the aneurysm was induced. Payment transfers. Eleanor's voice was steady despite the tears on her cheeks. My son was meticulous. He documented everything. Probably for insurance, in case other Covenant members tried to turn on him. But the documentation proves his guilt absolutely. She held out the flash drive to Emma. This belongs to you, Eleanor said. You and your sister. Justice for your mother. Proof that she wasn't paranoid or delusional. She was a hero who died fighting monsters. Emma took the drive with shaking hands. Why are you giving this to us and not the FBI? Because the FBI will use it properly. But you deserve to decide what happens to it. You're the victims. The choice should be yours. Jonathan had underestimated this woman. She wasn't seeking redemption. She was offering it to the girls Catherine died protecting. Emma looked at the flash drive, then at Lily. More silent twin communication. Then Emma stood and handed it to Claire. We want everyone to know the truth, Emma said. About our mother. About Sarah. About what the Covenant did. We want justice. Even if it means dragging your mother's name through more investigations? Claire asked gently. More media attention? Mama wasn't ashamed of fighting them, Lily said. We won't be ashamed of finishing what she started. Eleanor smiled through her tears. Your mother raised you well. Both our mothers did, Emma corrected. Sarah helped Mama plan everything. She's part of this too. Yes, Eleanor agreed. She is. And I'm sorry I never got to meet her. From what I've learned, she was remarkable. She was, Jonathan said quietly. She really was. Claire took the flash drive and immediately handed it to one of her team to secure. Mrs. Hastings, we'll need your formal statement. Everything you know about the Covenant's operations. Of course. I prepared written documentation as well. Names, dates, financial records. Everything my husband and son kept over the years. Eleanor stood slowly. There's one more thing. Come with me. She led them deeper into the house, to a wood-paneled study lined with books. She pressed a hidden panel, and a section of bookshelf swung open, revealing a safe. Eleanor worked the combination with practiced ease and pulled out a leather-bound journal. This was Victor's personal diary, she said. He started keeping it when he was 18. The last entry was the day before he died. She opened to a marked page and read aloud. March 15th, killed Catherine Corleone today. She refused to surrender the evidence even when I threatened her daughters. Brave. Foolish. She died protecting secrets that will come out anyway. Jonathan Stratton is too idealistic to let this go. I should have killed him when we had the chance. Should have killed both sisters years ago. But Victor Jr. convinced me Sarah was an asset, married to someone powerful who could be useful. Now that decision will cost us everything. Eleanor closed the journal. My grandson. Victor Jr. He's 32, brilliant, and more ruthless than his father. He's been rebuilding Covenant networks from London for the past week. And according to this journal, he's planning something. Planning what? Jonathan asked. Eleanor flipped to the final entry, dated the day Victor died. Victor Jr. has a contingency plan if the evidence goes public. He calls it the Samson option. If the Covenant falls, he'll trigger a coordinated financial collapse that makes 2008 look like a minor correction. Wiping out trillions in assets. Destroying the global economy out of pure spite. He says if we can't rule the world, we'll burn it down. The room went silent. He's bluffing, Claire said. One person can't crash the entire global economy. One person with access to the Covenant's remaining network can, Eleanor corrected. My grandson has passwords, access codes, sleeper agents in financial institutions across 12 countries. Victor didn't just believe he could do it. He was proud of the plan. Jonathan felt ice forming in his chest. Where is he now? London. But he's planning to return to New York next week. There's a Covenant emergency meeting. The remaining family's trying to salvage what's left. We'll arrest him the moment he lands, Claire said, already pulling out her phone. He won't land. He'll know you're waiting. Eleanor looked at Jonathan. But he doesn't know I've turned on the family. And he doesn't know about the journal. Which means we have one advantage, surprise. What are you suggesting? Jonathan asked. I'm suggesting I contact him. Tell him I have information about you. About the girls. That I want to help him rebuild. Eleanor's expression hardened. I may be old, but I can still lie convincingly when it matters. I'll lure him somewhere you can take him down before he triggers his Samson option. It was risky. Victor Jr. was paranoid and well-trained. He might see through the deception. But it was also their best chance to stop the Covenant's final revenge. Do it, Jonathan said. Claire started to protest, but Jonathan cut her off. We can't let him crash the global economy. Millions of innocent people would suffer. We have to stop him. And if it's a trap? Claire demanded. Then we spring it carefully. Jonathan looked at Eleanor. Can you really sell this? Convince your grandson you're on his side? Mr. Stratton, I've spent 84 years lying to myself about what my family was. Lying to one more person will be easy. Over the next 2 hours, they planned the operation. Eleanor would contact Victor Jr., claim she had leverage over Jonathan, evidence that he'd fabricated the Covenant files. She'd offered to help discredit the investigation in exchange for a face-to-face meeting to discuss the family's future. The meeting place would be somewhere public but controllable. Somewhere the FBI could position assets without being obvious. Emma suggested the Morgan Library in Manhattan, the place where Jonathan had proposed to Sarah. It's perfect, she said. Lots of witnesses so he'll feel safe. But also private rooms where you can trap him. Plus, it means something. Sarah's place. Where this all started. The poetry of it wasn't lost on Jonathan. Beginning and ending in the same place. Eleanor made the call while they all listened. Victor, darling. It's grandmother. Yes, I know what happened with your father. It's tragic. But we need to talk about the future. I have information. About Jonathan Stratton. About Catherine's girls. Things that can help us. No, not over the phone. This needs to be in person. The Morgan Library in Manhattan. 3 days from now. I'll explain everything then. She was good. Convincing. The perfect blend of grief and determination. Victor Jr. agreed to the meeting. When Eleanor hung up, she looked exhausted. He suspects nothing. He thinks I'm just a grandmother protecting what's left of the family. Thank you, Jonathan said. Don't thank me yet. This only works if we actually stop him. Eleanor looked at the girls. And even if we do, the damage is done. Your mothers are gone. My family's legacy is ruin. The best we can hope for is preventing more tragedy. That's enough, Emma said firmly. Preventing tragedy is what Mama and Sarah died for. If we can finish that, they didn't die for nothing. Eleanor smiled sadly. You're wise beyond your years, child. We had to be, Lily said simply. Mama didn't give us a choice. They left the estate as the sun was setting, the flash drive and journal secured, a plan in motion. In the car, Emma and Lily fell asleep against Jonathan's shoulders, exhausted from the emotional day. Claire drove, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror. You're good with them, she said quietly. I'm learning. Slowly. The custody hearing is in 2 weeks. You know that, right? Jonathan had been trying not to think about it. I know. The judge will ask why you're qualified to raise them. What will you say? That I'm not qualified. That I have no idea what I'm doing. That I'm making it up as I go. Jonathan looked down at the sleeping girls. But also that I love them. And I'm not going anywhere. Not ever. That might be enough. And if it's not? Claire's jaw tightened. Then we fight. Character witnesses. Expert testimony. Whatever it takes. Those girls have lost enough. They don't lose you too. The safe house appeared ahead, lights glowing warm against the darkness. For 3 more days, they'd be safe. 3 days to prepare. To plan. To make sure Victor Jr.'s final revenge failed. And then Jonathan would face the custody hearing that would determine whether Emma and Lily stayed his daughters or became wards of the state. He carried the girls inside, one in each arm, and tucked them into bed. Emma stirred as he pulled the blanket up. Dad? The word still made his heart stop. Yeah, sweetheart? Are you scared? About the meeting? Honesty. Catherine had raised them to value honesty. Terrified, Jonathan admitted. Good. Mama said being scared means you understand the danger. It's the people who aren't scared who make mistakes. She fell back asleep before Jonathan could respond. He stood in the doorway, watching them breathe, and made himself a promise. Victor Jr. wouldn't win. The Covenant wouldn't get its final revenge. And these girls would grow up knowing their mother's sacrifice meant something. Whatever it cost. Whatever it took. Because Sarah and Catherine had given everything to protect them. The least Jonathan could do was finish the job. 3 days later, Jonathan stood in the Morgan Library's main gallery, surrounded by priceless manuscripts and FBI agents disguised as tourists. Eleanor sat in the Dickens room, the place where Jonathan had proposed, waiting. Claire was in a surveillance van outside with a tactical team. And Emma and Lily were at the safe house with Agent Martinez, under strict instructions not to leave for any reason. Jonathan wore a wire. Every word of the coming conversation would be recorded. All they needed now was Victor Jr. to show up. At precisely 2 p.m., a man entered the library. Early 30s, expensive suit, cold eyes that scanned the room with practiced efficiency. He looked like his father. Like his grandmother. Like 200 years of Hastings genetics compressed into one utterly ruthless package. Victor Jr. walked directly to the Dickens room. Jonathan followed at a distance, trying to look casual. Inside, Eleanor stood to greet her grandson. Victor. Thank you for coming. Grandmother. He kissed her cheek, but his body language was tense. You said this was urgent. It is. Please, sit. They sat. Jonathan positioned himself outside the room, listening through the wire. I have information about Jonathan Stratton, Eleanor began, her voice steady. Information that proves he fabricated portions of the Covenant evidence. Victor Jr. leaned forward. What kind of information? Financial records showing he had motive to destroy our family's reputation. His company was failing.